And you will know my name is the Lord.
That I am God.
Damn you all!
All right, here we are again. Welcome one, welcome all to the one, the only, the wildly irregular new, where the hell did that come from? Junk Shop Library channel, home of Improv Bible Study. The Atheist Bible Study, where we read every last word of the King James Bible and subject it to the scrutiny, the ridicule, the mockery, yea, and the blasphemy it so richly, richly deserves. Not for children or the easily offended. Started streaming, must be train time. Well, what you gonna do? All right. So, 3 years and change into this project, we finally cracked into the New Testament. About 3 months or so ago, we moved from the temptation narrative into the Sermon on the Mount. At which point, a couple of chapters into said sermon, we hit pause like the Bible was a Danish detective drama and didn't get around to coming back to that streaming service for 3 fucking months. But we're back. Let's see if it lives up to our memories and expectations. Greetings all. Got some old and dear friends of the channel in the chat. Couple I hadn't seen in a hot minute. Yes, the intro is fantastic. That's courtesy of Bree from the Hive Science channel. Her link is in the description. If I copied and pasted everything correctly, I'll have to check after we're done. So, I don't think we've got any housekeeping. Not much been going on to keep house about. So I reckon we'll launch right into the mayhem and the foolishness. Or will in one, give me one quick. I'm trying something here. There we go. We'll see if it takes. I've got the stream up on my high-tech, spare no expense second screen, which is my phone over here, so that I can see the chat in something more akin to real time than comes back to me through StreamYard, and also I can keep a little bit better eye on what's going on. All right. What y'all think of the thumbnail? I don't know if it's even going to be relevant, but it was fun to make. I just cracked open to see what we were launching into next and saw the first couple of words of chapter 7 and was inspired. The muse, as Stephen King used to say, took a dump on my head. I did mention the not for children or the easily offended bit, right? I think I did. Yes, I did. Okay, hallelujah. Here we go. The Gospel according to Matthew, 7th chapter. Judge not, that ye be not judged. For with what judgment ye judge, ye shall be judged. And with what measure ye mete, it shall be measured to you again. And why beholdest thou the mote that is in thy brother's eye, but considerest not the beam that is in thine own eye? Or how wilt thou say to thy brother, Let me pull out the mote out of thine eye, and behold, a beam is in thine own eye? Thou hypocrite! First cast out the beam out of thine own eye, and then shalt thou see clearly to cast out the mote of thy brother's eye. Give not that which is holy unto the dogs, neither cast ye your pearls before swine, lest they trample them under their feet, and turn again and rend you. Ask, and it shall be given to you. Seek, and ye shall find. Knock, and it shall be opened unto you. For every one that asketh receiveth, and he that seeketh findeth, and to him that knocketh it shall be opened. Or what man is there of you, whom if his son ask bread, will he give him a stone? Or if he ask a fish, will he give him a serpent? If ye, then, being evil, know how to give good gifts unto your children, how much more shall your Father which is in heaven give good things to them that ask him? Therefore, all things whatsoever ye would that men should do to you, do ye even so to them. For this is the law and the prophets. Enter ye in at the strait gate, for wide is the gate, and broad is the way that leadeth to destruction, and many there be which go in thereat. Because strait is the gate, and narrow is the way which leadeth unto life, and few there be that find it. Beware of false prophets, which come to you in sheep's clothing, but inwardly they are ravening wolves. Ye shall know them by their fruits. Do men gather grapes of thorns, or figs of thistles? Even so, every good tree bringeth forth good fruit, but a corrupt tree bringeth forth evil fruit. A good tree cannot bring forth evil fruit, neither can a corrupt tree bring forth good fruit. Every tree that bringeth not forth good fruit is hewn down and cast into the fire, wherefore by their fruits ye shall know them. Not every one that saith unto me, Lord, Lord, shall enter into the kingdom of heaven, but he that doeth the will of my Father which is in heaven. Many will say to me in that day, Lord, Lord, have we not prophesied in thy name? And in thy name have cast out devils? And in thy name done many wonderful works? And then will I profess unto them, I never knew you. Depart from me, ye that work iniquity. Therefore, whosoever heareth these sayings of mine and doeth them, I will liken him unto a wise man, which built his house upon a rock. And the rain descended, and the floods came, and the winds blew, and beat upon that house, and it fell, and great was the fall of it. What? Oh, no, let me try that part again. I gotta stop trying to make eye contact with the camera, especially in these repetitive ass sections where it looks all the same on the page. So, whosoever heareth these sayings of mine and doeth them, I will liken him unto a wise man which built his house upon a rock. And the rain descended, and the floods came, and the winds blew and beat upon that house, and it fell not, for it was founded upon a rock. And every one that heareth these sayings of mine and doeth them not shall be likened unto a foolish man which built his house upon the sand. And the rain descended, and the floods came, and the winds blew and beat upon that house, and it fell, and great was the fall of it. And it came to pass, when Jesus had ended these sayings, the people were astonished at his doctrine, for he taught them as one having authority, and not as the scribes. There we have Matthew 7 and the end of the Sermon on the Mount. I could have gone a further 10 minutes the last stream and just wrapped up this mount shit. But we didn't know. All right. So, I do remember saying last time, I am strangely lit. I do remember saying last time that I could really only figure out 2 explanations for the odd, rambly, bullet pointy structure of the Sermon on the Mount. And the one option I came up with was that he really did just stand there on the mountain and rattle off these maxims, one after the other, with no explanation, no explication, and while you're standing there listening to this crap trundle on, apparently no hope of extrication. The other is that it is a compilation. That Matthew took all these little sayings that Jesus tossed off, his little bon mots that sprang forth from his face hole while he was, stuck in line at the 7-Eleven behind somebody paying with coupons, and just crumped them all into one place. And he said, okay, so we're gonna writing, we're gonna have Jesus go up a mountain and teach unto the multitudes, and I'm just gonna put all of his words of wisdom and a couple of little Aesop's fables style things just boom together and say that it was a sermon. Having read the last of, I believe, 3 chapters worth of it just now, I am more inclined than ever towards the latter. That it's a stuffing together, a synthesis is not quite the right word. Anthologizing of a bunch of sayings attributed to Jesus, at least by Matthew. All right. So, now that we've all got the wise man built his house upon the rock stuck in our heads, where it will play rent-free for about the next 3 fucking months, I don't really have anything insightful to say about the house on rock versus house on sand metaphor. It's not a bad one. I mean, right? Like, credit where credit is due. If you are laying out a groundwork, if you will, for living, a metaphor of a firm foundation versus a less firm foundation is, it's a pretty solid little metaphor. Not I don't have too much issue with that. And truth be told, I don't have a huge amount of issue with most of the rest of chapter 7. I have some, fear not. But, physician, heal thyself. Lisa for Truth says, you don't want a real house on a rock. No, you probably don't. On the other hand, he was a carpenter, not an architect. So, it's not, professional advice should not be interpreted, take the beam out of thy own eye, and you shall see more clearly to cast out the mote of thy brothers. I mean, it's a little clunky, and it's a little, you foolish mortal. But it's kind of, so it's all right. I mean, you could do worse in terms of life advice. Get your own house in order. But then we hit verse 11. After this whole, if your son asks for a fish, will you give him a scorpion? If he wants a flamingo, will you shoot him in the face? This goes on for a minute. Then verse 11, if ye then, being evil, know how to give good gifts unto your children, how much more shall your Father which is in heaven give good things? All right, Jesus, we got to talk. We know your mama was all conceived immaculate. We know you were ignited within her from some cosmic seed of David transplantation. But we got to talk. You're new to this ministry game. All right? And I don't know how long it's been since you've looked back in on the people of Earth before you decided to transplant yourself down here and go charging around saving folks, will they, nil they. But if you're trying to gain a following and endear yourself to a bunch of illiterate peasants, maybe don't make a centerpiece of your first big public sermon to a large number of people be, you are all evil. Doesn't tend to go over too good. Folks don't like it all that much. Evil. It's a strong word. Not a lot of room for interpretation. Pause for a call. I remember how to do this, kind of. All right. A lot of stuff in this chapter that modern fundy New Testament, King James only kinds of Christians love to quote partially and out of context. And some of it has entered into the idiom, in English at any rate, partially and out of context. For the sake of example, pearls before swine. Do not throw your pearls before the swine. Yeah, because they won't appreciate them. They might eat them, You don't really want to go sieving through pig shit now, do you? Nope. The full verse 6. Give not that which is holy unto the dogs, neither cast ye your pearls before swine, lest they trample them under their feet, and turn again and rend you. If this is indeed the word of Jesus, called the Christ, Son of the living God, you could probably make a pretty solid case that this is an active call not to evangelize to the heathen. Give not that which is holy to dogs. Cast not your pearls before swine. Because A, they won't appreciate it, and B, they might kill your ass. So keep this gospel thing close. This is for us. I think you could make a solid argument for that perspective. All right. Then we bounce from there to the next maxim, or pairing of maxims, maybe, depending on your interpretation. Ask, and it shall be given. Seek, and ye shall find. Knock, and the door shall be opened to you. For every one that asketh receiveth, and he that seeketh findeth, and to him that knocketh it shall be opened. Ask of whom? Seek what? I am confused. We know how it's been interpreted. And you can make the argument that it then goes on to verses 9, 10, and 11, where it says, you know, you who are evil, you're not going to give your son a venomous snake when he asks for a fish. And your heavenly Father so much more so than ye who are evil. I mean, you could, I guess, you kind of gotta take a lot for granted and make a lot of assumptions for this really to flow and work. And I don't know. If I had come down from my heavenly throne, emerged in some backwater town in Israel in 4 BC with no mass communication, I might have been tempted to be, I don't know, clear, precise, concise, difficult to misconstrue. Quick side note. We've got a lot of really amazing people here with us live right now. And the announcement for this stream only having gone out half an hour before airtime, it is amazing how many of y'all are here. Thank you all so much for coming. Good to see you. Wide is the gate and broad is the road that leadeth to destruction. Enter ye in at the strait gate. That's Straight. The narrow gate, as opposed to the wide gate. This kind of strait, like of Gibraltar. And then we go on to false prophets, figs and thistles. By your fruit, by their fruit, you shall know them. And then we have verses 21 and 22, which almost seem to contradict the evil tree, good fruit, good tree, evil fruit bit. Because 21 and 22 is, not everybody who says, Lord, Lord, will enter into the kingdom of heaven. Because on the day when motherfuckers are getting into the kingdom of heaven, there's going to be people out there who say, Lord, Lord, did we not do miracles and do them in your name? And drive out demons and do all kind of wacky ass shit that wouldn't have been. And Jesus is going to say, who the fuck are you? Get out of here. And not let them into the kingdom of heaven. Which sounds seems a little bit to me suspiciously like some good fruit coming off some evil trees. Some evil trees in sheep's clothing walking around out there casting out demons and doing miraculous signs in the name of Jesus. And Jesus don't know who they are and ain't going to let them in my Father's house. What? People love this shit, Sermon on the Mount. People love it. It is so doofy. It's so scattershot and all over the place, and it's internally contradictory verse to verse. All right? A lot of us internet skeptics love to point out contradictions in the Bible. But most of the time, it's like, who really was Solomon's son? From which bloodline came Joseph? How many women were at the empty tomb? You don't often get no bad tree makes good fruit. Some false prophets will cast out devils and do many wonderful works and prophesy in the name of the Lord Jesus Christ. In the space of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 verses. Right. This is not, was it one woman or three at the empty tomb, because one whole ass book says one. And a whole ass other book written 70 years later says 3. This is 9 verses consecutive with a glaring internal inconsistency to the extent that Jesus one moment says, this does not happen and cannot. And within those same 9 verses comes around to, this will happen. This thing that I just said is not a thing that can be. All right. Oh yes, and it occurred to me right at the end as I was reading, and I'm glad I looked back down because I remembered. When Jesus had ended these sayings, people were astonished at his doctrine, for he taught them as one having authority and not as the scribes. Really? He's just been rattling off like bargain basement Aesop and Poor Richard's Almanac for 3 chapters. This is the teachings of one with authority? Maybe they're talking about his tone of voice and his stage presence. Maybe that's all there is to it. Maybe it's like Dee Snider's thing about frontmen versus lead singers. I don't know. Chapter 8. Chapter 8. When he was come down from the mountain, great multitudes followed him. And behold, there came a leper and worshipped him, saying, Lord, if thou wilt, thou canst make me clean. And Jesus put forth his hand and touched him, saying, I will. Be thou clean. And immediately his leprosy was cleansed. And Jesus saith unto him, See thou tell no man, but go thy way, shew thyself to the priest, and offer the gift that Moses commanded for a testimony unto them. And then Jesus was entered into Capernaum. There came unto him a centurion, beseeching him, and saying, Lord, my servant lieth at home, sick of the palsy, grievously tormented. And Jesus saith unto him, I will come and heal him. The centurion answered and said, Lord, I am not worthy that thou shouldest come under my roof, but speak the word only, and my servant shall be healed. For I am a man under authority, having soldiers under me, and I say to this man, Go, and he goeth, and to another, Come, and he cometh, and to my servant, Do this, and he doeth it. When Jesus heard it, he marveled, and said unto them that followed, Verily I say unto you, I have not found so great faith, no, not in Israel. And I say unto you that many shall come from the east and the west, and shall sit down with Abraham and Isaac and Jacob in the kingdom of heaven. But the children of the kingdom shall be cast out into outer darkness. There shall be weeping and gnashing of teeth. And Jesus said unto the centurion, Go thy way, and as thou hast believed, so be it done unto thee. And his servant was healed in the selfsame hour. And when Jesus was come into Peter's house, he saw his wife's mother laid and sick of a fever. And he touched her hand, and the fever left her, and she arose and ministered unto them. When the even was come, they brought unto him many that were possessed with devils, and he cast out the spirits with his word, and healed all that were sick, that it might be fulfilled what was spoken by Esaias the prophet, saying, Himself took our infirmities and bare our sicknesses. Now, when Jesus saw great multitudes about him, he gave commandment to depart unto the other side. And a certain scribe came and said unto him, Master, I will follow thee whithersoever thou goest. And Jesus saith unto him, The foxes have holes, and the birds of the air have nests, but the Son of Man hath not where to lay his head. And another of his disciples said unto him, Lord, suffer me first to go and bury my father. But Jesus said unto him, Follow me, let the dead bury their dead. And when he was entered into a ship, his disciples followed him. And behold, there arose a great tempest in the sea, insomuch that the ship was covered with the waves. But he was asleep. And his disciples came to him and awoke him, saying, Lord, save us, we perish. And he saith unto them, Why are ye fearful, O ye of little faith? Then he arose and rebuked the winds and the sea, and there was a great calm. But the men marveled, saying, What manner of man is this, that even the winds and the sea obey him? And when he was come to the other side, into the country of the Gergesenes, there met him two possessed with devils, coming out of the tombs, exceeding fierce, so that no man might pass by that way. And behold, they cried out, saying, What have we to do with thee, Jesus, thou Son of God? Art thou come hither to torment us before the time? And there was a good way off from them an herd of many swine feeding. So the devils besought him, saying, If thou cast us out, suffer us to go away into the herd of swine. And he said unto them, Go. And when they were come out, they went into the herd of swine. And behold, the whole herd of swine ran violently down a steep place into the sea, and perished in the waters. And they that kept them fled, and went their ways into the city, and told everything, and what was befallen to the possessed of the devils. And behold, the whole city came out to meet Jesus. And when they saw him, they besought him that he would depart out of their coasts. And there we have chapter 8. Okay, so that got busy. The second act has begun. The prologue is over. Jesus kicking this shit into high gear. So, Jesus comes down off the mountain. He's run himself out of aphorisms. And great multitudes followed him. And he heals a leper and tells the leper, don't tell nobody. Go show the priest that you're not leprous anymore and make the required sacrifice. Presumably the leper did. He is not further mentioned in the chapter. And then a centurion shows up. A military leader of the occupying forces of the Empire of Rome in this territory. And says, my servant is sick. And Jesus says, okay, well, I'll come make him no more be sick. And the centurion says, I'd really rather you didn't. I would feel bad having such a worthy man in my house. But because I am a military man, the very model of a modern major general, if you will, I have faith that people with authority say, and it is done. And they don't have to be there to make sure that it's done right. And Jesus gets all bug-eyed with wonder and turns to them that followed. Great multitudes followed him down from the mountain. Turns to these great multitudes and says, this heathen-ass motherfucker got more faith than y'all. There's going to be heathen in the kingdom of heaven because they have faith. More faith than children of the kingdom who shall be cast out into outer darkness where there shall be weeping and gnashing of teeth. And he turns to the centurion and says, you got it. Servant is healed. Then they go to Peter's house for supper, cocktails, an orgy. I don't know. They go to Peter's house. Peter's mother-in-law is down sick with a fever. So he makes the fever go away so that she can minister unto them. The fever goes away, and she gets up and tends to her daughter's husband's spiritual leader's guest's need. Welcome to, well, most of the world, let's be honest, throughout most of history. All right. Even is come. And they, who? Don't know. Not important. They. Presumably the great multitudes that have been following him around all this time while he's healing people of the most dreaded disease known in this society and telling him not to tell anybody that he healed him. Not for any reason, he says. Just don't tell nobody. It'll be our little secret. But whoever they are, they bring him many that were possessed with devils and also sick. And he cast out the devils and healed the sick. And then we hit verse 17. The Matthewiest verse of the Gospel of Matthew that ever has Matthewed yet so far. That it might be fulfilled which was spoken by Esaias the prophet, saying, himself took our infirmities and bare our sicknesses. Except that most of the time when that verse is quoted, at least in modern day Southern American Protestant Christianity, which is the only one I can speak from on extensive personal experience, most of the time you hear that verse, it's that suffering servant stuff. You know, Jesus took the burden upon himself. Jesus had the nail, his hands look like this so that mine can look like this kind of bullshit. He didn't take the iniquity or the sickness or the devils, or he didn't possess himself of them and didn't bear them, other than apparently just bearing them out of the person and yeeting them into the sea, as we'll see in a minute in some other case. It just made him better. I mean, doctors do this stuff all the time, but we don't refer to them as bearing our iniquities and our what is it? Infirmities and sicknesses. And hopefully they're not, because hopefully they're wearing masks. All right. And then Jesus notices the great multitudes. He goes up the mountain and multitudes follow. He comes down the mountain and multitudes follow. He dialogues with the centurion and declaims to the multitude, how great is this man's faith, that he believes that someone with divine power can make divine power things happen without being physically present. He goes to Peter's house. He does a healing. He gets ministered unto. He casts out many devils and heals sick. And all of a sudden he notices that there's multitudes. Not the brightest bulb in the church, this carpenter. He gave commandment to depart unto the other side. The other side of where? It doesn't say, but Capernaum is on the coast. Right? So, well, the coast, you know, it's the Sea of Galilee. It's a puddle. All right. And some guy comes up and says, hey, I'll go with you. And he says, but I don't have a house. No further word of the scribe. And somebody else says, I'll go with you, but I got to go bury my father first. And 10,000 apologists punched the air. There has been a petrifying amount of foolishness and apologetics written about Jesus said unto him, follow me and let the dead bury their dead. Most of what I've read or heard or been taught interpreted that what the man is saying is not, my dad's dead in the ditch, I need to go dig a hole and roll him in before sundown so that it doesn't impurify the ditch or whatever. I'll be right back. A lot of the interpretation is that I will follow you, but first I've got to wait for my father to die. I'll tend to the affairs of this life, and then I will go and follow you to eternity and beyond. And then Jesus says, let the dead bury their own dead, which means let the spiritually dead, them that are not following me, deal with mortality and current affairs. You need to get your butt in this boat. We're going to go fish for some men. So he gets on a boat, and his disciples followed him. And he falls asleep, and the boat is covered with waves, and he sleeps through it. And his disciples freak the fuck out. And they wake him up. They say, you know we're going to die. There's a storm. And he says, you woke me up for that? You think my Father in heaven would let me drown ignominiously in this crappy little ocean in a fishing boat? And all you two? So he leans over the side and he says, flatten out water. And he looks up at the sky and he says, shut up, wind. And it does. And they all marvel. The incessant marveling is weird. All right. They've been following him even just since he came down from the mountain. If they skipped the John the Baptist business, they may have just, heard him on the loudspeaker up the mountain and said, this guy's got some good ideas. I think I'll follow. And then they've seen sickness healed and leprosy cured and demons cast out. But they draw the line at controlling the weather. I don't know enough about first century Levant polytheism and folklore. I strongly suspect that the wind and the sea were considered to be the domain of a different set of forces and entities than the spiritual lives of random passers-by that might be ministered to by itinerant miracle workers. That would be my guess. All right, so they get all goggle-eyed with wonder, and they get to the other side into the country of the Gergesenes. What is a Gergesene? I have no idea. Gergesenes, Gergesenes. Comes to the country of the Gergesenes, and coming out of the tombs come two possessed by devils. Exceeding fierce, so that no man might pass by that way. Apparently, word on the street is a little slow to get around. You really think that people from this area don't know better than to try to disembark right next to the Gergesene tombs where these two demoniacs are so fierce that no one can pass? Why the hell didn't you just go down the block and get off at the next stop? You had to get off at the Gergesene demoniac bus stop, boat stop. So, these two demoniacs come out of the tombs. They come running down. They address him by name, call him the Son of God, and ask him if he has come to torment them before the time. There's an appointed time for the torment of demons that possess people in tombs? And Jesus here throwing the timetable off. Is he supposed to be here? Is he supposed to be here now? Jesus doesn't answer. This is true. He does not. He never has. 2,000 years, still waiting. Jesus doesn't answer. Not Christians, and not Gergesene tomb-dwelling demoniac road blockers. What have we to do with thee, Jesus, thou Son of God? Art thou come hither to torment us before the time? Jesus ain't say shit. The Gergesene demoniac duo of the tombs turn around and look and see a herd of many swine. Sorry, an herd of many swine. And they say, if you cast us out of the tomb-dwelling fuckers, send us into the pigs. So Jesus says, go. So they hop out of the Gergesene tomb-dwelling duo. They hop into the herd of swine. The swine freak the fuck out, jump over a cliff, and drown. And the swine keepers flip the fuck out and went their ways into the city and told everything. Yo, I'm sorry we lost your sheep. Your pigs. Some crazy carpenter disembarked at the Gergesene necropolis, cast the demons out of the road bandits, sent them into the pigs, and the pigs committed lemming suicide into the Sea of Galilee. I promise it's true. And word gets around that Jesus is healing demoniacs and ending livelihoods, an entire herd of and great many swine gone. Galilee sea bacon sunk in the sea with demons in. The whole city comes out to meet Jesus, to worship him, to beg for his healing and his aid and his intercession with the Father. Not so much. They say, please go away. We don't want your kind of trouble. We are from an entirely different society because we keep herds of pigs, not something that would have been likely in a 1st century Levantine Jewish community. So the Gergesenes are something else. Please go away. Just go away. We'll pretend the whole pig herd killing thing didn't happen. Any chance you could take our road robbing former demoniacs away with you too? We hadn't been able to use our necropolis for quite some time. Maybe that's why they kept the pigs around. The graveyard was occupied by 2 raving, fierce demoniacs. Had to dispose of the dead somewhere. Kept pigs. I don't pretend that these off-the-cuff explanations and speculations make any coherent sense or are likely. But they're as good as the interpretations I grew up being taught and believing. And half this stuff serious needs an interpretation and an explanation because it's just presented without commentary. Chapter 9. Chapter 9. This is accelerating fast, this ministry. All right? Jesus comes out of nowhere at the age of 30. A dove shits on him in the middle of the Jordan while a man in a leather diaper holds him underwater. He walks up a mountain and rattles off every aphorism he can think of. He comes down and starts healing lepers and centurion servants. Then he starts casting out demons. Then he goes to the Gergesenes and kills all their pigs. What's next? 9. And he entered into a ship and passed over and came into his own city. And behold, they brought him a man sick of the palsy, lying on a bed. And Jesus, seeing their faith, said unto the sick of the palsy, Son, be of good cheer, thy sins be forgiven thee. And behold, certain of the scribes said within themselves, This man blasphemeth. And Jesus, knowing their thoughts, said, Wherefore think ye evil in your hearts? For whether is easier, to say, Thy sins be forgiven thee, or to say, Arise and walk? But that ye may know that the Son of Man hath power on earth to forgive this, then saith he unto the sick of the palsy, Arise, take up thy bed, and go unto thine house. And he arose and departed to his house. But when the multitudes saw it, they marveled and glorified God, which had given such power unto men. And as Jesus passed forth from thence, he saw a man named Matthew sitting at the receipt of custom. And he saith unto him, Follow me. And he arose and followed him. And it came to pass, as Jesus sat at meat in the house, behold, many publicans and sinners came and sat down with him and his disciples. And when the Pharisees saw it, they said unto his disciples, Why eateth your master with publicans and sinners? But when Jesus heard that, he said unto them, They that be whole need not a physician, but they that are sick. But go ye, and learn what that meaneth. I will have mercy, and not sacrifice, for I am not come to call the righteous, but sinners to repentance. Then came to him the disciples of John, saying, Why do we and the Pharisees fast oft, but thy disciples fast not? And Jesus said unto them, Can the children of the bride chamber mourn as long as the bridegroom is with them? But the days will come when the bridegroom shall be taken from them, then they shall fast. No man putteth a piece of new cloth unto an old garment, for that which is put in to fill it up, taketh from the garment, and the rent is made worse. Neither do men put new wine into old bottles, else the bottles break, and the wine runneth out, and the bottles perish. But they put new wine into new bottles, and both are preserved. While he spake these things unto them, behold, there came a certain ruler, and worshipped him, saying, My daughter is even now dead. But come and lay thy hand upon her, and she shall live. Jesus arose and followed him, so did his disciples. And behold, a woman which was diseased with an issue of blood 12 years came behind him, and touched the hem of his garment. For she said within herself, If I may but touch his garment, I shall be whole. But Jesus turned him about, and when he saw her, he said, Daughter, be of good comfort, thy faith hath made thee whole. And the woman was made whole from that hour. And when Jesus came into the ruler's house, and saw the minstrels and the people making a noise, he said unto them, Give place, for the maid is not dead, but sleepeth. And they laughed him to scorn. But when the people were put forth, he went in and took her by the hand, and the maid arose, and the fame hereof went abroad into all that land. And when Jesus departed thence, 2 blind men followed him, crying, and saying, Thou son of David, have mercy on us. And when he was come into the house, the blind men came to him, and Jesus saith unto them, Believe ye that I am able to do this? They said unto him, Yea, Lord. Then he touched their eyes, saying, According to your faith be it unto you. And their eyes were opened. And Jesus straitly charged them, saying, See that no man know it. But they, when they were departed, spread abroad his fame in all that country. As they went out, behold, they brought to him a dumb man possessed with a devil. And when the devil was cast out, the dumb spake, and the multitudes marveled, saying, It was never so seen in Israel. But the Pharisees said, He casteth out devils through the prince of devils. And Jesus went about all the cities and villages, teaching in their synagogues, and preaching the gospel of the kingdom, and healing every sickness and every disease among the people. But when he saw the multitudes, he was moved with compassion on them, because they fainted and were scattered abroad as sheep having no shepherd. Then saith he unto his disciples, The harvest truly is plenteous, but the laborers are few. Pray ye therefore unto the Lord of the harvest, that he will send forth laborers into his harvest. And there we have chapter 9. Teach me to say it out loud, right? What did I say at the end of 8? This shit is accelerating hard. And all we'd done was heal lepers and fevers and cast out 2 demons from some highway robbers who lived in graveyards. Chapter 9 kicks off with Jesus being a petty bitch. They don't teach you this in Sunday school, but you don't read with your thinking hat on either in Sunday school. So, walk with me here. Jesus leaves the Gergesene side of the lake, goes back over, goes to his own city. They bring him a man sick of the palsy lying on a bed. They keep bringing people to him and he keeps healing them. Casting out demons, healing all the ills, all this kind of crap. He goes to his home city. They bring him a paralytic. Jesus turns to the paralytic and says, "Cheer up, son. Your sins are forgiven." And nothing happens. And certain of the scribes thought to themselves, "Blasphemy. Jesus running. This is his town. We know this fucker. Forgiving sins. Kid knows better than that." And Jesus can now read minds. So he turns to certain of the scribes and says, "What would be easier? For me to tell this guy his sins are forgiven, or for me to tell him, get up and go on your way and heal his paralyzed ass so that he can do that?" I wanted to take the easy way out. I just wanted to tell him his sins were forgiven. He doesn't say what would be easier, to heal or to forgive sins. He says, which was easier, to say thy sins be forgiven, or to say arise and walk? Jesus literally wanted to take the easy way out. Go to the house, get away from the paralyzed guy. Jesus becomes a petty little bitch at this point. Verse 6. "But that ye may know that the Son of Man hath power on earth to forgive sins, then saith he to the sick of the palsy, Get your ass up, pick up your pallet, and go back to your house. And he arose and departed to his house." Jesus didn't heal him out of compassion or because the man had faith or because the people who brought him had faith. That's been the explicit statement in multiple of these healing cases over the course of the last chapter and a half. Jesus, seeing their faith, healed him. Jesus got mad that certain of the scribes thought it was blasphemy that he say something he wasn't authorized to say, because the only way to get your sins forgiven is to do your heave offerings or your wave offerings or your animal sacrifices or whatever at the temple under the auspices of the priests and the scribes. They questioned in their hearts whether he had the authority to say what he said. He read their minds and was so miffed that they wouldn't take his word for the fact that he had power, that then he healed the sick of the palsy. No wonder he ends up killing a tree for not bearing fruit out of season. Vindictive little bitch. And then he picks up the tax collector, and then he goes out to dinner. And while he's on his date with Matthew, the tax collector, a whole bunch of innkeepers and sinners come to sit at the table. Enter the Pharisees. Poof! In a cloud of judgment and passive aggression. And they go to the disciples. They say, why is he sitting at the same table as innkeepers and sinners? They don't mention he's out on a dinner date with the tax collector. They're just pissed off that the innkeepers get to be there. And Jesus overhears. Doesn't read what is in their hearts in this moment. Apparently that's a power that's unique to him and the scribe class. He hasn't upgraded far enough to be able to read the minds and hearts of the Pharisees. Jesus hears and proceeds to go on this tear about how sick people don't need, or well people don't need doctors, but sick people do, and how the Pharisees' religion is out of date and incompatible with the word that he brings. That's a new wine and old wine bottles thing. You can't patch a worn out old coat with a new piece of fabric. He should have stuck to his carpentry metaphors, because every time he strays outside of his established knowledge base, he ends up saying something that makes no damn sense. Then comes a certain ruler who worships him. And then says, my kid's dead. Jesus says, okay, let's go to the house. On the way to the house of the ruler, a woman who's been bleeding for 12 years comes up behind him all creepsy and tricksy and touches the hem of his garment, believing that touching the magic man's robe will heal her. And Jesus either feels the power drain or notices that somebody grabbed his skirt. He turns around and he says, you must have done that for faith reasons. You're not a pickpocket. You have been healed. And poof, she's healed. Good for her. Iron deficiency is nothing to fuck around with. So he gets to the ruler's house. He comes in. He sees the professional mourners all doing their thing. He says, y'all know she's not dead, right? She's asleep. And they laughed him to scorn. It's all right. Look, I know you're from around here, but maybe you've been inhaling too much sawdust or something. I don't know. Did you pick something up in Gergesene town that's addled your brain? This bitch has been dead for long enough for her dad to come find you, bring you back here, hire the mourners, get the musicians in. We would be able to tell if she was passed out. She dead. Jesus and or the ruler get everybody shooed out of the room. And he takes the dead kid's hand and says, get up. And she does. And fame hereof went abroad into all that land. Funny that. You raise a prince's daughter from the dead, and word gets around. He goes on his way. Two blind people follow after him saying, please help us, please help us. He doesn't. He goes to the house. He goes into the house. The blind men come up and say, please help us, please help us. He says, you think I can? They say, well, we've heard about leprosy, palsy, fever, demon possession, and death being things you can fix. We're pretty confident you can do LASIK. Jesus says, okay. Boops them in the eye like a stooge. And they can see. And he says, now don't tell nobody. I'm fine with people knowing I can exorcise demons. I'm fine with people knowing I can stop storms while in a boat covered by the waves. I'm fine with people knowing that I can raise the motherfucking dead. But don't let this blindness healing thing get out. But they leave and they can see. And people noticed that people in the town who had been blind can see now. And the formerly blind people say how they got fixed. And as they're on their way out, they bring in a mute. Possessed with a devil. Is he mute because he is possessed by the devil? Or is he a mute person who just also happens to be possessed by a devil? We don't know. It don't say. Jesus throws out the demon. Enter the Pharisees in a cloud of judgment and passive aggression. And they say, he's casting out demons. He must have demon powers. He casteth out devils through the prince of devils. No one could possibly have power over demons. He must be in league with their king. And that's the only reason he's getting obeyed. And they're jumping out of bandits and into swine. And Jesus goes on a great healing and preaching tour. He went about all the cities and villages, taught in the synagogues, preaching the gospel of the kingdom, which as far as we can tell so far is essentially believe in me, don't be a dick, and you'll get into the kingdom of heaven. Except for the people that I don't know personally, who use my power to do the same stuff I'm doing, them I sue for copyright infringement and throw them into the outer darkness where there will be weeping and gnashing of teeth. And also I'm here to replace the entirety of the Mosaic law as upheld by the Pharisees since the days of the Babylonian exile, because you can't put new wine in an old wine bottle or the bottle will break and the wine will spill and you lose both. There's one in every village. And while he's on his compassion tour, he notices how many people there are. Looking around going, there's a lot of sick people. I'm going to have to say this sermon in every single town. I am so tired. I need help. He turns to his disciples and says, will you please pray, not for me to have strength, but for God to send me back up. Because I can't do it by myself. I am only an only begotten son. The harvest is plenteous, the laborers few. Pray to the Lord of the harvest that he will send forth laborers into his harvest. There's not enough of me, y'all, to go around. And I can't be bothered to pray because I'm tired. So I'm going to take a nap. And I need y'all to pray that God sends me back up. Thus saith the Lord. The word of God for the people of God. What the hell were these people smoking when they wrote this shit up? And where can we all get some? I hope his date with Matthew went well. All right. Well, we've been going over an hour, even not counting the intro. Pardon me. 'Tis allergy season. The spring of the year, the time when all the plants come in my nose. All right. That was quite a visual, wasn't it? I sort of apologize for that. We're going to wrap it for today. I want to thank you all so much for coming. I always forget how much I enjoy our little gatherings until we do one. I should remember not to forget that more often. Less often. I should remember not to forget that more. Yes, I should remember more often not to forget that. Anyway. I hope y'all enjoyed our little excursion through the wilds of it's Christ brings a sword. I was wondering if you'd show up. You missed some quality blasphemy. You need to rewind and watch the stream from the start. Like and subscribe. So, what did we learn on the show tonight, Craig? Not blame much. I liked the story where Jesus threw a spiteful little bitch fit. Didn't want to bother healing the paralytic because that would have taken more effort, but did it anyway to demonstrate to the Pharisees, or no, in the scribes, it was the scribes in that anecdote, to demonstrate to the scribes that he had the power to do so, and for no other reason. I liked the story of the Gergesene tomb bandits. I did not remember at all that version of the story. I remember the version of the story with the lemming pigs and the demoniac in the tombs when it was one. In the tombs of the Gadarenes, which apparently is a different place than the tombs of the Gergesenes. That, or it's two different books by two different people written the bulk of a century apart, and some of the details are fuzzy in their memory by the time old man Luke is finally writing 2 emperors later. We learned that Jesus is a wildly unpredictable person. Sometimes he wants everybody to know and will stand on a mountain preaching the way of life. And sometimes he gets so overwhelmed from the public response to him raising some kid from the dead that he doesn't even want the blind people he heals to tell anybody that it happened, let alone who did it. It's almost like this legend is composed of a collection of, well, unrelated and or half remembered and or entire ass made up nonsense. But people take it seriously. Some of you take it super seriously. Be patient, I'm advised. Oh, buddy. I've been waiting for more than 3 years for just exactly something like this to start happening every stream. You have no idea how patient I can be. All right. So we'll wrap here. I know it sounded like I was going to wrap a few minutes ago, but I wanted to go back over some of the highlights of our weird little wander through the Levant today. Hate to break it to you, buddy, but the Lord is neither more nor less patient than any man, because the Lord don't exist. And also, I am no man. Until we congregate again. Good to see y'all. Thank you for coming. We're going to roll Bree's fabulous multi-purpose intro, outro here, which I love so very much. And until I don't have to do that. I specifically set up a little thingummy over here and moved the mouse halfway across the room so that I wouldn't have to crane up close to the camera like that. And then I forgot. So professional. This is why you're all here. Everybody take care. Be safe. And stand against